Hello guys, how are we all doing? Welcome back to Premier League predictions. Sophie, the Premier League is back after the FA Cup weekend.
Yeah, I would say thank God, but I was actually really enjoying the FA Cup games as well.
Yeah, the FA Cup's not bad. It's not like an international break.
No, God, I hate that.
That's bad.
Yeah, no, I like the FA Cup.
And how are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Just a reminder, the score's on the doors from last time. Sophie is leading overall by 2 points in the Premier League predictions. So let's hope I can shut the gap. Let's set a like target of 1,700 for today's video, guys. Please do make sure to hit the thumbs up button if you haven't already. It is free to hit the like button, so please show us some support by clicking that button down below. While you are there, if you've not already hit the subscribe button, make sure to do so. It is free to subscribe as we are closing in on 55,000 subscribers, so like and subscribe. Just to run you through what's coming up today then before we get into the predictions, it is sort of the Premier League winter break, so only half of the teams are in Premier League action this week and only half of the Premier League teams are in Premier League action next week. If your team is not mentioned, it's because you're not playing this weekend. We also have our predictions for the FA Cup replays at the end of this video if you wanted to see those. With all that said, let's get into some Premier League predictions, Sophie. And we are going to kick it off with a big one at Turf Moor. Burnley versus Luton Town. Two of the bottom three locking horns, and these are the biggest games when it comes to the relegation dogfight.
Yeah.
Because one of the bottom three, or maybe both of them, will get some points this weekend. And this one's really hard to call, to be honest, Sophie. When the three newly promoted teams came up, I think most of us had the highest expectations for Burnley.
Yeah,
they'd done so well in the Championship. Vincent Kompany knows the Premier League, and they've got players that you think can perform well in the Premier League. But out of the three teams that have come up, Luton Town have performed the best. They've got the most points. They've also got a game in hand, which if they were to win, would bring them out of the bottom three. And I'm struggling with this one, to be honest, Sophie. I'm really not 100% sure. Burnley, to be honest, I saw them against Aston Villa. I've seen them in a few games this season, and I think they are unlucky. They play some good stuff, and they don't get the results sometimes.
No, they don't.
But this sort of game suits them, because when they hosted the other newly promoted team, Sheffield United, they beat them 5-0.
Yeah,
and Burnley do have a decent record against Luton from my memory. They did beat them at Kenilworth Road earlier this season, and last season in the Championship, Burnley took 4 points off Luton. But then again, if we're coming on to Luton, Soph, I think out of the three, right now, I feel like Luton have the best chance of staying up. It seems as if the Premier League teams haven't quite figured Luton out, or they're just kind of finding it difficult to break them down, whereas Burnley have been playing more open football and it's been maybe a little bit more easier to exploit them.
Yeah.
When it comes to this one then, head-to-head, Sophie, Burnley have the home advantage. They have a decent record against Luton in the last few games. Luton come into this higher in the table. Maybe a draw wouldn't be a bad result for Luton. I'm really struggling here, Sophie. I'm really struggling. It's such a big game. Do you know what? I think we could see a similar story playing out for Burnley, where they play really well and they come away with nothing. I'm going to give 3 points to Luton here, just based on what they've done so far this season. Luton Town have put up more fight and got more points. Burnley 1, Luton Town 2.
Yeah, I'm finding this one really, really hard to predict and to separate the two. As you mentioned, Burnley do play more open football. It is more entertaining to watch, but they do get punished for that. So you've got to give them credit for playing that way, but equally, if you want to stay up, that's not really working so far. On the other hand, Luton aren't really playing that kind of open football, but sometimes their counters and mainly their set pieces has been where they've been getting the goals. Yeah, I'm finding this one really hard. Both teams obviously don't want to lose this one, so I might have to just sit on the fence and say a 1-1.
Oh.
I'm finding it hard.
I was going for a 1-1 draw, and then I thought I'm just going to shift myself off the fence for this one, but there you go. Share your thoughts. At the same time I've said that, I can see Burnley winning it, but you can't back both to win.
Yeah, it could go either way, really.
Share your thoughts and we'll see who gets it right at the end of the weekend. On to the next game, Sophie, and we go to a West London derby where Chelsea take on Fulham. Both sides involved in Carabao Cup action in the week. Fulham to play Liverpool tonight at the day of recording this. Chelsea lost to Middlesbrough on Tuesday.
Yeah, I know, I wasn't expecting that, because it's not like they went really, really weak either.
No, Cole Palmer's guilty of missing some good chances.
They're very wasteful, aren't they?
They are very wasteful.
Very, very wasteful.
It's difficult with Chelsea, Sophie, because they've got some good players. they just can't seem to put it together
Yeah.
consistently. Some really good performances on their day this season, but no signs of consistency is making me think I don't know what to predict for this one. Fulham, a little bit the same. They're both sort of around mid-table, to be honest. Fulham have really been able to turn it on in some games this season. Back-to-back 5-0 wins, beating Arsenal as well.
Yeah.
But the best results Fulham have picked up have been at home. And on the road, do I go for Chelsea? No, I'll go for Fulham. I'm going to go for another away win. Chelsea 1, Fulham 2.
I'm actually going for the exact same. I did find it hard to go for Fulham when they're not at home, but the way Chelsea are playing, I feel like they're probably going to be ahead on pretty much all the stats in this one. But as I've just mentioned, they're very, very wasteful, and you can't afford to be. And I feel like it's going to be the same against Fulham. So yeah, I can see Fulham walking away with the 3 points. No, I agree with your scoreline. 2-1 for me.
Both going Fulham 2-1. Interesting. Share your thoughts on that one at Stamford Bridge. Next up, Sophie, it's another decent matchup this. We've got Newcastle United versus Manchester City. Huge game for both, to be honest. They both need some points to get back to where they want to be in the league. They're both sort of playing catch-up in the Premier League. Newcastle's form, you can put it down to injuries. One thing I do need to say to the Newcastle fans is a massive apology. I backed Sunderland to beat Newcastle in the FA Cup, and Newcastle smashed Sunderland 3-0.
Yeah.
I apologise. As for Manchester City, Sophie, they need to win this. They need to win this to keep up with Liverpool, because they're 5 points behind. They have got a game in hand. But if Liverpool keep up their really good levels of form, Man City are going to struggle to catch up. I believe Newcastle did beat Man City in the Carabao Cup. Could that have bearings on how this one plays out? Possibly. Newcastle are still missing a few key players, but because I'm very sorry for what I did last week, Newcastle, I'm going to give you a draw, which is a good result against Man City.
It is.
1-1.
I mean, we've said pretty much every week that when Newcastle are at home, I'm more tempted to back them. But it is Man City. They've got De Bruyne back. They're looking good again. They really need to maintain good form at this point. As we've mentioned with the title race, it is quite close, and they've got a little bit of a gap to close. So could they close it this weekend? Yes, I can actually see them getting the win here. I think it's going to be a close game. I'm going to say 2-1 Man City, but I do see Man City winning this one. So
there you go.
Yeah, 2-1.
Backing Manchester City. Share your thoughts on that game at St James's Park. Newcastle v Man City is a massive game. As I say, they could both do with a result. Yeah. Both missing players, but as you say, Man City have got most of their key players returning now. Yeah. Fair enough. On to the next one, Sophie, as we head over to Merseyside. Goodison Park, Everton take on Aston Villa. Difficult this. Once again, Sophie, you can say they've had similar circumstances in regards to the fact they've both had a really good run, but maybe in the last couple games they both look like they've just been running out of steam a little bit. They could both do with a little break. Aston Villa, I mean, they have been so good this season, Sophie. No one realistically thought they'd be in a title race, but here they are. Yeah. You have seen those different levels in just the last couple of games where they've been able to just get results over the line, or in some cases not been able to, against Sheffield United and Manchester United. That said, I still think they're a good team. They've got plenty of good players, and they should be looking to win this one. Everton, obviously, they've had a really good season, and if you add the 10 points back on, of course, they'd be nowhere near trouble. Yeah. But the reality is the 10-point deduction leaves them just above the bottom three, and they need to keep churning on results. Last few results, they've just looked maybe a little bit tired, not the right results, to be honest. And I think this could be a close game, to be honest, but I am going to go with the team at the higher end of the table. I'm going to go Everton 1, Villa 2. Villa to sneak the 3 points over the line.
Yeah, I could see this one being another draw, to be honest. I think it could be quite a low scoring one, maybe just one goal separating the two. And again, I feel like it could go either way. Everton, as you've mentioned, they have had a drop-off in form, because at one point they were absolutely flying. Yeah. They've not been able to maintain that. Again, Villa as well, they were absolutely flying, and they've not dropped off quite as much as Everton have, but just stalling a little bit. but I feel like they're going to get back to winning ways. I'm going to back them to win 1-0, low scoring, tight game, but they do get the 3 points.
1-0, interesting. Okay, just one more Premier League game to predict, to remember. It's just 5 games. We're going to Old Trafford, Sophie, and this is another tasty matchup. Manchester United versus Tottenham Hotspur. Both sides progressed in the FA Cup over the weekend. Manchester United got past Wigan, Spurs got past Burnley. As for the Premier League, Sophie, Manchester United just not consistent. I don't tend to back them very often, and last time I did back them to lose 2-1 to Forest, and they did. As for Spurs, they seem to have recaptured some of that good form from the earlier part of the season, but I still have this sort of misplaced trust with Tottenham. I'm not 100% sure if I can go in for them every week. So for that, I think I'm going to sit on the fence for this one. Manchester United have the home advantage. They've not drawn many games this season, but I think this one for me is too close to call. Spurs certainly having a better season, but Man United have the players to possibly get a goal and a point. I'm going to go Man United 1, Tottenham 1.
Yeah, if we were talking about injuries, we've got to mention Tottenham. They've got quite a few key players out, so obviously that has affected their form. Man United, I don't know what to say about you, to be honest. You are inconsistent. You will pop up with the odd win and surprise me, and then equally you'll lose a game which I thought would be a dead set to win. I feel like a lot of people will be backing Man United this week, and especially being the home side. So I'm going to go the other way. I can see it being a bit of a high scoring one actually, because at times they both look open, more so Tottenham, but I do see them winning, weirdly enough. So for me, Spurs win 3-1.
Ooh.
Yeah, I see it being goals this weekend.
There you go. Wow, slightly different to my prediction there. Right, that is the 5 Premier League games, guys. Like I say, it's the winter break, so it's only half of the Premier League teams in action this week. The other half are in action next week, so make sure to join us next week for our Premier League predictions for those games. We're also going to leave you our FA Cup replay predictions here. These are mine and Sophie's FA Cup third round replay predictions for a place in the 4th round of the FA Cup. Some interesting matches. First up, you got Wolves versus Brentford, where we are both backing Wolves to get through to face West Brom in the Black Country Derby in the next round. Both going for Wolves to get through. Then it's Birmingham City versus Hull City, where we are both just leaning towards the away side in an all-championship matchup. We think Hull City will go to Leicester away. Then Bolton of League One v Premier League Luton, where we are both edging the Hatters to get past Bolton in that one. Then it's Bristol City versus West Ham United, where we are both backing the Hammers to get through in a 2-1 win to secure their place in the next round. Then it's non-league Eastleigh versus League 2 Newport for a game against Manchester United in round 4. We are both backing Newport to squeeze through that. Then it's League 1 Blackpool versus Premier League Forest. After a 2-2 draw at the City Ground, we both think Forest will just get through this one. Then it's League 1 Bristol Rovers versus Championship Norwich, where we are going in opposite directions. Sophie is backing the Canaries and I'm backing Bristol Rovers to get through and go to Liverpool away. And then finally it's Everton versus Crystal Palace in an all Premier League matchup, where we are both backing the Toffees to get through to round 4 with a 1-0 win over Crystal Palace. That wraps up our FA Cup third round replay predictions. That completes today's video then, guys. As I say, a slightly shorter one than usual, but please do show it the same love as you would to the other ones. Make sure to drop a like as we go for 1,700 likes. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. We are back for Championship predictions tomorrow. Thank you for joining me, Sophie.
Thank you.
We will see you guys in the next video. Take care. Peace out.